This is the Townhall session. We're talking about the handshake and fist 2 years on. Has anything changed? That is the conversation we're having tonight. We'd like to hear from you. 22422 is SMS line. Send in all your questions, all your comments on whether the handshake has helped you in any way. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. I see already the trending hashtag. There's Monday Report. I'll sample some of your views here, but let me introduce my guest real quick. Beginning from my farthest left, Honorable Gladys Wanga, Woman Representative Homa Bay. Thank you so much for making time. And Honorable Samson Cherargei, Senator Nandi. Thank you so much for making time. In the audience, we also have Gabriel Muduma, political analyst and experts as well with us here. We'll be talking about the handshake. And let's start off with the Kipro Laur. Says there's nothing as useless as the so-called handshake. It benefited two people, brought disunity among the 48 million plus Kenyans, and the top four agenda has since been disintegrated, and scams such as BBI created and add bitterness to the already flaming political differences. Honorable Wanga, 2 years on, has the handshake really benefited Kenyans or just the political leadership?
First of all, Trevor, let me take this opportunity to pass my condolences to the family of Honorable Dori. He was my colleague for 2 terms, and today Musambweni Mons, so my condolences and that of the people of Homa Bay County. And then secondly, let me come to the handshake 2 years on, and I'll make 4 important points. 1, the handshake has been very, very critical in bringing down the political temperatures in this country. It has created political stability. And Trevor, I say this as somebody who was on the front line of the resistance and others just before the handshake. This country was coming apart just before March 19th, and tensions were very, very high. And after the handshake, the tensions have come down. We have political stability in this country, and this is not just Kenyans saying it. I mean, and if you ask Kenyan political leaders, is it, Kalonzo Musyoka, is it Musalia Mudavadi, is it Moses Wetangula, is it Gideon Moi, is it the members of the Jubilee Party and others, we are all in agreement that the temperatures came down after the handshake. And the world recognized that, because you have seen that recently, a month ago, the President and Raila were both invited to Washington, D.C. to the 68th prayer breakfast to share what that was like and what drove them to that point. So that's my first point. And Kenyans can do business. Kenyans in Nairobi here, in Nakuru, in Kisumu, Kenyans can go about their businesses, without thinking about political tensions. You might think about economic constraints, yes, but without thinking about political tensions. And the second point I want to make is the war against graft. The war against graft has escalated since the handshake because of the support that both sides of political divide, all sides of political divide have given to the war against graft. We have seen the institutions coming up, stepping up. The institutions, whether it's the DCI or the DPP or ESCC, stepping up, and we must continue to support those institutions to do their work. And the third point I want to say is around development. And I say this as a legislator who was in Parliament the last 5 years. And as far as development, it was very, very skewed. And people, for example, from, areas that were considered opposition were not seeing developmental progress. But since the handshake, we have seen the SEZ now coming up in Dongokundu, in Mombasa, whether you talk about Rivertex, whether you talk about the port coming up in Kisumu and all across the country. And this is what we want to see. We want Kenyans not to get development on the basis of who they voted for. And the last point I want to make on why I think the handshake is moving the country forward is the BBI process. And it is called the BBI process. It is not a BBI event. Okay. So if you ask the question, have you seen any change in your life today? You probably have not seen today, but what we are doing with the BBI process is for posterity. Kenyans bring their voices, Kenyans bring their views. It is a conversation open to everybody so that we can deal with these issues that we are talking about, not just for today, not for Raila and Uhuru, not for Gladys Wanga or Cherargei, not for Trevor Mbija today, but for posterity and for generations to come. Right. And that is what is in the BBI report. And if you haven't already given your views, I think it's time to people to keep talking, keep speaking. Not because our problems will be solved tomorrow, but because we are building a nation that can be sustained into the future. Okay.
Cherargei, let's take on those 4 things. Political stability, your view. Are we more stable now? This political stability, one graph development, BBI process.
No, I think politically, we are not politically stable because apparently our colleagues have exported confusion and deception of ODM to Jubilee. And they have succeeded in ensuring that there is no stability in terms of politically. Because if you are talking about BBI that cannot unite three Kenyans, Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga and William Ruto, then how can it unite the rest of Kenyans? Because you remember there is a preacher, I think Matthew Lawi of Mombasa, the other day it went viral and he was saying, if as Kenyans we are united, why is it the top leaders who are dividing us? Secondly is that all these issues, I watched a story by Laura Otieno at Citizen News at 9, and I was surprised that where even people who now part of the famous handshake, or of course Bonoka handshake, were very serious and saying there is nothing to smile about, as Glenn Washington said in that reggae song. So all these issues, when you see it is about the political survival of a few individuals. On the issue of corruption, all of us support fight against corruption. We support, but we don't support corruption being prosecuted in headlines and media dailies. Because, and you know, the fight against corruption has sacred cows. The big question to DCI and DPP, although DPP is nowadays Director of Political Prosecution, and of course DCI is a political hitman, will tell you why have they not prosecuted the Ruaraka land scandal? Is it because it involved the high in the office? Is it because they have sacred cows? Is it because somebody who has been implicated is the so-called blue-eyed boy of the axis of evil on this handshake issue? That is the corruption that we are fighting in Kenya is so cosmetic. Because as we, by the way, interestingly, the assertions that the Deputy President said yesterday in Meru, that nowadays, if you don't say 1, BBI, 2, BBI Baba, 3, you don't say you support BBI or handshake, and you go for Mosho Moja in Capitol Hill, you will never be able to be haunted. And that is what we are receiving. Some of us are in court simply because of our perception that we support the Deputy President. And those intimidations has been happening. So when I hear people talking about the handshake has brought together, the handshake has made the political stability, the handshake is economic. Today, Kibo Sugar Factory was closed, which is a beneficiary of Kisumu County, where you and I am a neighbor there, where I also supply a sugarcane in Kisumu factory. What are you talking about? Which BBI is when Kenyans are poor? When you saw the story that you carried today, that even the MCAs are now looting the poor, what are you talking about? There is no what you call shared prosperity. This is about, and I want to thank the governor of Siaya. I think he is not your Siaya, Governor Cornel Lasanga. He said, when I say BBI, you say Baba. The Kamket member of parliament of Tiati said, this BBI, we will transform it into a political alliance or a political... and if you want to know that this BBI or handshake is cosmetic, you see how he is planning. It's only ODM and their goons. If you do not pro-ODM or in ODM, you will not be allowed to speak. And that is why we are inviting, as I conclude, that's why we are inviting everybody to Nakuru where it is cosmopolitan. And our issues will present it to Aje, because that's the chair of task force. Other members will just come and see how to be decent and to behave. Not to export their mannerism that they normally, and I want to thank the people of Meru. In Kunoru, they told them they don't entertain issues. Finally, you saw today, as I send my condolences to our colleague Suleiman Dori's family and the people of Msambweni, you saw the chairman, my good friend, the ODM chairman, Badi, was being shouted down. Because Kenyans nowadays can tell between the difference of red and black and white. You can't lie to Kenyans. Kenyans know. Yes.
Wang, I'll give you a chance to respond. But Gabriel, what are your sentiments now that the two legislators are reading from different scripts?
I think I should have sat in the middle there. But anyway, I think... from what the person who gave the views that BBI was useless, I really want to digress from that. I don't think it's a useless thing. And from what my good friend Gladys Wanga has said, there was something that the handshake brought. And it brought what you would call a calm environment. And that calm environment opened up to so many things, including the fact that I saw Gladys traveling to Central, and I saw Murkomen the other day going to the lakeside. So I think not only for the politicals, but also for me and you, we were able to transact and be able to travel to corners of this country without feeling, you know, that element of what am I doing here? Do I belong? So I think, Trevor, on that front, I think the handshake started well. Let me use the word, let me mention that again. I think it started well. Halfway down the road, we were introduced, or the handshake created an environment where we have today the so-called Building Bridges Initiative. Now, from the Building Bridges Initiative, Trevor, where we should not get lost, we must ask who owns or who should own BBI. I believe that's where the problem is. I'll say something that the president has actually pronounced himself to. The President Uhuru Kenyatta, he has said, or he told Kenyans, kindly sit down with this document, read it, and then start a national conversation. But at the same time, he was quite worried that this process may actually be hijacked by politicians. So I go back to the question I asked, who will own BBI? Are we going to start seeing the kind of chaos that we are seeing? Because, Trevor, let me tell you something. There is nothing that starts with chaos and produces order. It can never happen. It will never happen anywhere in the world. So if we are waiting for order to come, knowing very well that the establishment of a handshake and BBI was primarily to arrest a situation that kept happening every 5 years. I call it a destructive rhythm that kept happening every 5 years. To me, coming close to 2022, I would use the words that Dr. Martin Luther King used. He said that the fierce urgency of now, we must find a solution to ensure that this environment does not occur again. The issue is not just about infighting. No, there is an element of destruction that happens after every 5 years. Whether you look at it socially, whether you look at it economically, Kenyans at the end of the day will hurt. My only problem again is if we allow and continue allowing the politicals to set tone on BBI, we are going to lose it. When you look at the 9-point agenda, there are so many great things in there. And as we converse, the way I'm seeing Senator here talking with Gladys, it is a good, by the way, it is a good thing, because unless they agree to disagree, we will not find concurrence. So it is good that BBI has also opened up that me and my brother here can disagree on certain things, so that at the end of the day we come to convergence and say, guess what, I see your point, but I also need you to see mine, so that we can build a country where all of us belong, where we feel we have an element of entitlement in this great republic called Kenya.
Honorable Wanga, as you respond to what Cherargei was saying, you mentioned it yourself that you're one of the most fierce critics of the President Uhuru Kenyatta at that time. So what has changed about him now?
So after the handshake, I'll come to that question. But let me first just, bring my brother Cherargei back. Let's remove the insults. Let's remove, Bonoko handshake, axis of evil, all these words we are throwing at people and institutions, and so on and so forth. Let's come back to the issues where the rubber meets the road. Because, this chaos that Gabriel is talking about, there are no chaos. The only thing is, some people want to create confusion around the handshake and the BBI process because they are not comfortable and they think this has something to do with 2022 and they being stopped from, 2022 politics, which we had the other day, the Deputy President saying only death will stop him. But let me first come to these issues of that, because Cherargei mentioned the Deputy President talking about issues at a church or a funeral. If you look at Article 240 of the Constitution, the composition of the National Security Council, the Deputy President is a member, alongside the President, alongside the Ministers for Internal Security, Defense, Foreign Affairs, the Attorney General, the DG, NIS. And they meet weekly, I believe. This is a very good platform from which we expect a person of the stature of the Deputy President to raise matters as serious as he was raising in a funeral the other day. I believe if it was not meant to stir up emotion, then I don't know what it was meant to do. Because if you're a serious leader, such as the Deputy President, and you sit in the National Security Council, all these people, by the way, they are subject to that Security Council, whether it's the DCI, whether it's the DPP. There are people who can actually be talked to from that point. But this idea of them being bashed, you've heard the way they've been called. I don't know what Cherargei is calling them. But what I want us to move away from, let's move away from the insults. Let's deal with the issues that have been raised within the BBI.
Yeah.
Do we agree on those issues? Yes. Do we disagree on maybe how they should be moved forward? Maybe yes. So if we disagree on how they should be moved forward or how the process should move on, let's discuss that one. Yeah. Let's say, okay, the issues are our issues, because if you look at this report, and those talking about confusion at ODM, hooliganism, these are the things we must stop. The drama must stop. As you say, Kenyans are clever. You will not distract them by saying ODM are hooligans, I don't know what, especially on a show like this one. You must speak to the issues. If you were saying BBI is stopping William Ruto from becoming president in 2022, show us. This is a 156-page report written by, contributed to by 7,000 people. Show us which page of this report talks about stopping Ruto from becoming president in 2022. Let's talk about the things that affect us in this. And if you feel that the war against corruption is selective, and you feel that the Ruaraka land scandal must be prosecuted, and you have the facts and figures and everything, take them to the right places. Because if you remember, because this Ruaraka land scandal, it keeps coming up. And I saw that it was in court. I saw that the judges already, gave a ruling on it, on the matter. So I don't know, because every time you talk about this issue, I want us to say, so-and-so is in court and they are not supposed to be there. Okay. So-and-so is in court and they are not supposed to be there. So 2 years down the line, we have a country that is stable, where Kenyans are doing their business, where Cherargei and I were in Homa Bay together at the funeral of the mother of Senator Moses Kajwang. And Cherargei spoke and the crowd clapped for Cherargei. That is the Kenya we want. Me, I was in Central, places I would never go, and people receive me there. And this is the Kenya that we want moving forward. And when you talk about not being able to unite 3 leaders, the issues in the BBI are not about individuals. That is where we miss the point. The issues on this BBI are about 48 million of us and how we get our shared prosperity and how we want to move forward together. It's not about 3 people or 2 people. These people can come off the scene any day. And when they come off the scene, this country will not stop. It has to move forward.
Cherargei, when you say that the fight against graft is cosmetic, what set of facts are you using to qualify that statement?
Maybe before I answer your question, allow me to... I hope, as Gladys Wanga, she's my good friend, I hope she has apologized to the president because her and several of our members insulted the president. And number 2, I want to agree with us that we must have an honest conversation in this BBI process. Because if Kenyans watch these things, from Kisii to Bugungu to Mombasa, most of the percentage, of course, people say good things, but most of the time, the people they speak who support them are insulting the deputy president until you wonder whether BBI is about the deputy president. That's what we are saying. If you want to have a good conversation about stop insulting the deputy president and focus on the real issues, because I'll be interested, how do we increase money for devolution? That is why around 200 members of parliament, we met in Naivasha. And that is why we were saying, let us 3.5% put to judiciary, let us 5% give to stipend to young people who have not got the opportunity. And therefore, those are serious issues. And I agree with Gladys Wanga that as a country, we need a country where you don't have to close shops in Kirinyaga Road, here in downtown, where there are no businesses. Quickly to your question, cosmetic, because the DPP and DCI are doing very well in media headlines. They are prosecuted, they have convicted. And I have a strong belief that as somebody who should build a prima facie case before bringing to any place, there is no serious, apart from reporting to media, as if media nowadays is the courts of law, as if court opinion, where you come and splash 63 billion has been lost, 9 billion has been lost through NYCG.
Would you rather these things be taken to court without
and in fact, you saw in the Kenya Ports Authority case, the DCI and DPP clash because of political interest.
Which you
they
also
are
saw in the
untouchables,
newspaper.
and I want to cast aspersions because that is an active matter being investigated.
Yeah.
Because the people involved in these issues of scandal in Kenya Ports Authority are people that are perceived untouchable, and they are very loyal to Handshake and BBI. Because if you are loyal to Handshake and BBI, you can't be touched.
Cherargei, I will not allow you to make aspersions that are not qualified in this
Which
show.
aspersions am I making?
How do you know that they are sacred people? Them cannot be touched.
I can't, you know, I'm saying that is an active matter because I of course,
so
those are issues that are in court. That is why I have mentioned. In fact, I would like, she has referred to the matter that Ruaraka land case. I want to assure her it is not closed. That is a matter which is still under investigation. In fact, to confirm to you, because I sit as the chair of legal and we interact with the Multi-Agency Against the Fight Against Corruption, there is a file that has already moved from EACC to DPP. It's waiting for approval of DPP so that it can be now prosecuted. We can now move to court to prosecute. So all this fight against corruption, we want to see results. 2 years down the line, that is why the other day you saw the bromance between the DCI and DPP is gone. Because either of them has realized is being used politically and they can't convict
anyone. How do you say you want to see results or at the same time you're saying it's cosmetic? No,
it is cosmetic as much as it is now until we see results. And let me tell you, finally, Wanga, you had your time. Kindly allow me to finish this.
It's also time for the audience.
Yeah, of course I will allow them. I will allow them. What we need to do as a country is we need results. We don't need media islands. And I want to urge the DCI and DPP. Let us be factual. Let us be objective in the fight against corruption. And let me tell you, you don't need a referendum to fight corruption in Kenya. We have enough laws to fight corruption. Why should you need a referendum? Why should you need a BBI?
You need political will to fight corruption in Kenya. And what I said, and it must be noted, they are two different. There's the handshake, which brought about an environment in which you could actually fight corruption. Because previously, we would say, there is NYS. They say, no, there is no such thing. There is this other corruption scandal. No, there is no such thing. But right now, you see, because of the support that the president has gotten from all sides of the political divide, that he is moving forward. Even as you castigate, the DCI, you have a CS Treasury, PS Treasury. They are all in court for that Aror and Kimwarer. That would never have happened. And you know, when people work together, issues are bound to come up here and there, but those cannot be used to bring down the institutions. We must agree that corruption knows no tribe. Even if it is your sister, even if it is your brother, you must allow. And you know, the castigation of the DCI by Cherargei and his Tanga team began when it was important to, for example, move forward the Aror and Kimwarer cases. The DCI and DPP came under strong criticism. So if we cannot say that we are supporting the war against corruption, while at the same time casting serious aspersions on the officers that are supposed, and the institutions that are supposed to fight corruption. And if there are issues, a person such as the deputy president should be able to bring it up in places where it's not in rallies. The other day, the deputy president stood up in front of a mourning family and people and started to castigate the DCI. These are people who are junior to him in this government. Is that the kind of conduct that we expect of the person holding that office and the person telling us that he wants to become commander-in-chief? My answer is no.
So I want to take a quick break. Cherargei, I'll come to you. There are many questions from the audience and online.
Just to complete her trail of thought. Up to speed, we were with PS Maringa. Arora and Kimwarer has never been cancelled. Because if it cancels, the Kenya will lose a lot of money, and they will have to pay that company.
Let's leave out cases that are in court.
Of course, I'm just informing because it is important. It is not a case in court. I'm just giving what we call fair comment. Number two, the issue of I have finished the revitalization of Kisumu Port is ongoing. Dr. Manduku and KPA are facing allegations of corruption. Should we stop revitalization of Kisumu Port because it's under probe?
Okay. Yes. That's a conversation we're having right after this. And I also see a lot of questions coming from the audience and online as well. Captain Sankali Oletipis says, can Honorable Wanga, if the handshake was to unite Kenyans, then why are they sidelining other Kenyans? Why are they talking bad of other leaders? You'll answer that when we come back. Honorable Lee McQueen says, can you ask the senator what Jubilee government achieved before the handshake, which is not being able to achieve now? All right, keep your questions coming at Trevor Bijat, Citizen TV Kenya. #Monday Report. We'll be back in this conversation in just a bit.